Well, hey, howdy, hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Dan's Pro Shop. I'm your man, Dan. And in case you're wondering, yeah, I'm still messed up. I'm going to be in this thing for a little while longer. Anywho, we are not here to talk about what I can't do. We are here to talk about what Fluke can do for you. Anyway, enough with my terrible dad jokes. Let's just get into it, huh? Bam! The Fluke iSee thermal camera that's made specifically to go for your phone. And as if USB-C wasn't enough, they were cool enough to add the ancient lightning plug for those of you that are still rocking the older iPhones. Let's get into these things, see what it's all about. So as if yins guys didn't know already from just clicking on the video, we are talking about the Fluke iSee thermal camera adapter for your phone. Now, I'm sure if you guys are in this line of work, if you've done anything mechanical or sparky or whatever, you've run across it, for instance, where you're like, man, I really wish that I could see the heat that's going on in there. Unfortunately, our God-given peepers only have a certain spectrum that we can see. However, there are a lot of different variations of energy that happening around us that we cannot see. Electrical and magnetic fields are a good example of that. I mean, that may not be a good example for this because this doesn't do that. This picks up heat energy, which is a different kind of. Anyway, I'm ranting here. What I'm getting at is this allows your stock peepers to hook on to stuff that you normally can't hook on to. Yeah, this may be going a little left field here, but you understand what I'm saying. This lets you see heat, even though you can't really see heat. This is just one of those really cool things. It's like you throw in your toolbox, you're leaving your glove box, or you put it in a center console in your truck, and well, one of these breakers I suspect is going bad, or it's gnarly, so you're going down through the panel, and wow, look at that. That 15 amp is hotter than the surface of the sun, but it's not tripping, so something's going on there, or even just something as stupid as you're scanning a room looking for a break in the insulation in your wall. This is a awesome little tool. But yeah, let's get into this thing and see how it actually works. So guys, like I mentioned, they offer this guy in the USBC, which is Tango Charlie 01 Alpha. And in case you're rocking the old school iPhones, they have the lightning plug, which is Tango Charlie 01 Bravo. Just obviously they think that the USB-C comes first according to the part number, but either way, you can get either of these no matter what you're rocking. Obviously, the USB-C one's going to be a little bit more universal, but in case you haven't sprung the $1,500 to get a new iPhone, you can still get this one. Either way, let's just try to open this snazzy box here and see what's going on. Sorry for my busted wing. This is difficult. So, first things first, it comes with a long list of crap. And yes, if you are wondering, this thing operates on its own app. It's called Fluke iSee, and it's available for Google Play and App Store. So no matter what kind of phone you're running, this thing will operate, or you can just scan the QR code to do it. Well, you can go through all of this, New King James Bible of instructions to figure out what you want to do, or we can just go for it. So there's another little instruction pamphlet thing here. It looks to not be in English, so we're going to go ahead and discard that. And here is the camera itself. It's this cute little thing. I don't know about measurements particularly, but let's take a look here. We got 2¼ inch long. It's 1 inch top to top and about 1.5 inches including the plug. And the thickness is, we're just about 1/4 inch on the thickest part of this thing. So it is super sleek. It's about the size of a Bic lighter, maybe a little bit smaller. And it weighs almost nothing. But that does not discount the construction of this thing. If I had to guess, they are obviously 2 cases that are put together, but it seems to be like it's billet aluminum. If this was injected or cast, I would be very surprised. Just the quality finish of this thing and the smoothness. It's obviously anodized this fancy color, but it's pretty obvious to me that this is a billet aluminum chunk. and Lord knows what they got going on inside of here for the electricals and brains and everything. But between this one and this one, the only difference is this one is a lightning plug and this one is USB-C. So very clearly here, we have the camera here, the lens that actually intakes all the stuff and then turns a heat image into an image that we can see on our phone. And it's got this little beauty cover on the screen here. You rip that guy off, it's super satisfying, like taking the plastic off a new TV. And now we are effectively, unprotected in the world. So they actually do make a fancy little carrying case for this thing. It's like a leather keychain looking thing. Or you can keep it in this fancy little box that it comes in. Either way, let's just plug this thing in and see how it goes. So guys, as much as I hate to admit it, I actually read this thing. Not so much for me, but for you. I mean, yeah, it's for me, but I wanted to make sure that I can get you the most informed stuff that I can if you are looking at getting this thing. So, like I mentioned before, you have the TC01 Alpha and the TC01 Bravo. You know, the Alpha is USB-C and Bravo is a lightning plug. Well, it's not specifically, I don't know if that's a good way to put it. Either way, the USB-C one, the TC01 Alpha, this is Android compatible. Regardless of the fact that the new iPhones have a USB-C plug, you still need to use the Lightning plug one, the TC01 Bravo, for iOS Apple-driven devices. So regardless if you have the new iPhone that has a USB-C port, you still need to use the TC01 Bravo, the B one. You need to use the one with the lightning plug if you're running an Apple device. If you have an Android, then you need to use the Alpha, the USB-C. So, like I mentioned before, I got stuff going on everywhere. That little adapter thingy, actually, I think I have one laying around here. Yes, this cute wee little thing. Like, I will add links for all this stuff in the description so you don't got to pull your hair out trying to find one. If you are running an iPhone and you have a newer one, is it what, like 15 and up? I think that's when they changed it to USB-C. I could be wrong, but either way, if you have an iPhone and you have a USB-C plug, you need to get one of these little adapter things. Like I mentioned, they're dumb cheap, like a couple bucks. Honestly, they're worth just having around anyway. You need to adapt from USB-C to Lightning so you can run this thing on your Apple device. I just wanted to let you guys know, so if you have a newer iPhone, you're like, hey, I have a USB-C port, I can get this thing. Nay, you need the Lightning one to run on your iPhone regardless of the port. I just wanted to let you guys know so you don't get stuck in the mud later and you plug it in like, why doesn't this work? It's because the B is compatible with Apple and the A is compatible with Android. Now we got that out of the way, let's get back to it. Well, just in case you guys are new to the channel and you're not familiar with the way I do things around here, what you're watching here is being filmed on my phone. I'm not one of those fancy guys that has all the crazy camera equipment, so I'm using my phone right now to film this. And thank you to Mrs. Dan's Pro Shop for loaning me her phone for this. So right now, we got the Fluke iSee app. That's what the icon looks like. We'll just tap and open this guy. It's super simple how this app operates. Once you download it, you just have to accept the terms and conditions just like everything else in this world. And once you say go, you go. It asks for permission to use your camera and photos because that is an integrated thing into this app should you choose to. But I strongly suggest you do because it really opens up the options for this thing. Now, clearly here, it's telling you, hey guy, plug it in. That's how this thing gets started. And quite literally, that's all we do. In case you're wondering, the missus does have the older iPhone with the lightning plug, so it's a good thing we have both. Let's get into that one. Open this guy up. We got the same rigmarole of paperwork. The camera itself is exactly the same, just minus the different plug. So let's go ahead and rip off that beauty little cover there. We go back into the open app where it's prompting you to plug in. Go in until you get the nice little click. And there you go, we're open. I gotta tell you right off the bat, one thing I'm not super keen about is, let's just unplug this here for a minute. You see how stubby this plug is? Like, it's not very lengthy. I mean, excuse my French, I don't know a much better way to say that. The standout isn't great, if you will. So if you're rocking an OtterBox on your phone, like you can see here that this phone is in its virgin state. You know, if you're a technician or a Sparky or an engineer or whatever you do, chances are you do not have an unprotected phone. So this thing will not fit into the plug in the bottom of your phone if you have a case. I'm not crazy about that. However, there are ways around it. I know they make these little stubby standout things that is just like a male to female little extender thing specifically for getting attachments into your phone and accounting for that thickness of the case. Yes, it's okay. They work. I've used them in the past. Actually, I'm using one on this phone right now so I can plug my microphone into this phone while I have a case. So yes, they work. Yes, they're cheap. I think they're like $3 or $4 a piece. However, you know, it's just one more thing you have to have and you have to think about. And I really wish that they would have just added a 1/4 inch to this thing, because everybody and their brother has a case on their phone, and you can't use this thing straight out of the box on your phone if it has a case. So I'm sure this thing is great, but I really feel like that's an oversight in the engineering. But either way, we can get around that. I just want to let you guys know that and be aware of it up front. So once we plug this thing in, it automatically connects and goes into this fancy opening screen for the Fluke iSee. Now it automatically, so you can see what's going on. Apparently, my chin hairs are colder than the rest of my face. We will do some scanning here so you guys can really see what's going on. See, now look, you guys can better tell what's happening here. Since we have this thing plugged in forward facing, it's clear that it's going to be looking at me. So this thing is super user friendly. Whichever way you plug it in, that's the way it works. Let's go ahead and flip it. Unplug this guy, flip it 180 degrees, and it doesn't matter. It just takes. Once the app reboots, letting you know that everything's plugged in and rocking, now the camera is facing the other direction. Now we can check everything out. And I gotta tell you, I've used a lot of thermal cameras in my day, like between Milwaukee and Klein and Snap-on particularly. And usually there is such a delay between your movements and what happens on the screen. And I gotta tell you, this is hands down the best one that I have ever used. And I'm not saying that just because it's a Fluke product. Like, honestly, I have a Snap-on thermal camera that's its own thing. It's about the size of a cell phone, but it is its own thing. And the frame rate, in order for your picture to be live, you have to scan over something so slowly like this, so your image doesn't skip versus what you're moving. This one, it doesn't matter. Like, you can move it quickly and it moves with you. I mean, yes, every now and again it has to stop and think about what it's doing. But for the most part, this thing, it stays with your motion and it reacts pretty well. So let's go ahead and do like the most simple test possible here. You guys can obviously see that it knows what's going on. Bluer is colder, yellow and red and green and stuff is hotter. So we're going to take a simple Bic lighter, like I mentioned, like you guys can see the size comparison there. And let's just turn it on in the screen here. Look at that. Already, it's 307 degrees right in the center of that flame. The way that this app works, it just automatically picks the hottest thing in the frame and tells you. And in case you're wondering, for our Canadian and or just un-American brother in here, up here, this gear selection, temperature unit, you can change back and forth from metric Celsius or what I like to call freedom units. Now, is it just a coincidence that the symbol for Fahrenheit is a capital F and the word freedom starts with a capital F? Maybe. Is it American? You're darn tootin'. Wow. I never thought about it that way.
The electrical nerve center of our house.
Wow.
You're darn right, wow.
You're darn right well. Anywho, once you select the unit that which you want to measure temperature, now you can go through all kinds of stuff. There is, like, I'm not going to bother going through everything on here because there just is so much stuff. But honestly, that is the most important one, that you can just select the temperature range and what you want. So now this is why it asks you for access to your camera, because it can show you your actual camera versus what you're seeing. So in the event that you need to screenshot this or film this, because down here you can take a photo or you can take a video of what you are seeing in front of the camera. So whenever you have this turned on and you choose to take a photo or a video, it basically screenshots or films what is on the screen, what you're seeing now. So let's just say that you are looking at a motor for a grinder or a hydraulic press or something, and you need to prove to your boss, hey guy, that shaft bearing is screaming and we got like a week to replace that thing before it lets go to ghost. Now you can see the heat signature coming from that motor, and you can see on the actual image what is going on. So it's a good comparison to, like, hey, this is what it actually is, and this is what's happening thermally. So it is really cool. That's why the app asks for permission to use your camera. Now, in case this thing gets all kind of out of whack and you're just like, hey, I just need to zero this thing, make sure it's calibrated. That's what this guy up here that looks like an RPM gauge. You hit that and it pops up, measurement correction completed, just so like everything goes back to where it's supposed to be. Now, this guy on the right hand side is just basically a sliding scale. It shows you what the different colors are and what they mean. So, you guys are used to, you seeing stuff on TV. Blue is cold, red is hot. That's the basic normal of it. But down here on the right hand side, this 3 circle thingy, you can change how your image is viewed. So, and I don't know, hot metal, phantom fire, iron bow, whatever you want to do. It's just whatever works best for your contrast or whatever you're doing. So, I don't know. Let's just take a walk around the shop and see how hot some stuff is. So, guys, we're just taking a stroll here, walking around. You can tell there the fluorescent light in the ceiling, very clearly hotter. We got 220 degrees there at the socket on the edge of the bulb, and 100 or so on the bulb-ish. And in case you guys are wondering, yes, you can move these crosshairs and you can select different things. So it is totally, user-friendly. You can put whatever you want. And evidently, I got to fix some insulation there in the corner behind that TV because, it doesn't look like it's rough, but evidently we are losing a lot in there. Like, I was actually kind of concerned about using this thing because it would tell me how bad stuff is. This is just cool stuff. That big thing there, LED clock. No, this is crazy stuff. I tell you what would be a cool test. Here, we got an electric heater for the garage. Let's turn that thing on and see what it does. All right, I got things like pointed at an angle here so you can actually see both of what's happening. I'm going to go ahead and turn the thermostat up on the heater. There we go. We're set at 75. It'll kick on any minute here. There we go. Let's just kick her on up to 85. Now, did you see that? That thing gets hot like right now. You can see those elements inside that thing. They immediately turned on. Now let's go ahead and turn the temperature back down and see how long it takes for those coils to cool down. 260 some degrees. That's impressive. Man, you guys can tell that thing's still glowing. Evidently, it'll take a minute for it to cool back down to room temperature. So, guys, I know this is a little bit of a short one, but I don't want to bore you with all the particulars. I mean, this isn't exactly like a multimeter where you can go through and do specific things for specific applications. Like, one of these things is for your specific applications. Doesn't matter what you do, whether you're a plumber, carpenter, mechanic, sparky, engineer, steam fitter, whatever. You will always find yourself in a circumstance where seeing heat signatures could be absolutely like life changing for that job and that situation that you're in. And then you guys know me, industrial maintenance. I cannot tell you how many times this thing would save my butt. Just, every once a month or something when you're bored, just walk around with your phone and this guy plugged into it, just looking at stuff. You're like, I don't know, like that bearing for a motor is a really good example. I mean, of course a motor is going to be hot, but if you look at something and it's like 900, 1100 degrees or something, on the verge of becoming liquid, now you can tell before that thing is just a catastrophic meltdown. You just go around looking at stuff. Preventative maintenance is a big deal. And obviously for the sparky industry, you can tell high resistance and stuff because high resistance equals high heat, amp draw, current, all this stuff. I mean, I'm literally preaching to the choir. If you guys are looking at this, you know what you're looking for. And don't get me wrong. I mean, there are a gazillion of these things. You look on the Amazons, there are a bunch of these things from a bunch of different manufacturers. But let's be honest, 90% of them you have not heard of. This one is from a brand you know and trust every day. If you use a Fluke meter, I'm sure that you're like me. That meter is your favorite meter. And for good reason. Not only is it a good quality product, but it comes from a good quality brand that you know and trust. So, whenever it comes to something like this, do I save a couple 30, 50, 60 bucks and get something that's a knockoff, but it might work, it might not? Or do I just get the Fluke and know that I'm getting the best that I can get and I know it will work? So, guys, you already know my opinion. Fluke is awesome and they are awesome for a reason. So if you are interested, please do check out the links down in the description. I will link both the USB-C and the Lightning one because, they have both. So it's an option. Depends on whatever phone you are rocking at the time. But yeah, I think this thing is an absolute awesome add-on to the everyday toolbox. And if you guys are interested, it can definitely be an awesome add-on to yours also. So remember, if it works, it's not a coincidence. It's a fluke. I'm sorry. I know the dad jokes are terrible. But hey, guys, thanks for hanging around. And hopefully this helps you guys out in the future. So we'll see you next time.